It's sometimes said that the way you can judge a civilized society is how it treats the young and the old. It looks to me like we're failing on both counts right now, but tonight we'll focus on our children. Because instead of protecting and nurturing our children, America seems to be waging war on them on multiple fronts. And if we don't stop and change course, we'll be dealing with the consequences for generations to come. Let's start with this. We often talk on this show about the way Big Pharma corruptly pushes prescription drugs on American adults. That's bad enough, but just look what they're doing to our kids. Over the past 2 decades, diagnoses of ADHD in children between 3 and 17 have nearly doubled. But a recent study found evidence of overdiagnosis through what's called diagnostic inflation, expanding the definition of ADHD to include ambiguous or mild symptoms, or even medicalizing behavior patterns that previously wouldn't have even been considered abnormal. As a result, even the DEA is now expressing concern that ADHD medications, most often powerful stimulants, are being grossly overprescribed. They blame aggressive marketing by Big Pharma. But it's worse than aggressive marketing. What we've got in America today is a circle of corruption that's creating a nation of little addicts. Big Pharma pays doctors billions of dollars each year for things like consulting and promotional speeches, and in return, doctors work to expand the definition of a diagnosis, allowing themselves to prescribe more of the drugs produced by the corporations who pay them. And more prescribing means more drugs out there. As a result, in some parts of the country, 1 in 4 students are abusing ADHD medication. This is insanity. We've got to stop Big Pharma bribing doctors. Stop over-medicalizing our kids and start getting them outside doing healthy, normal things like hanging out with their friends or playing sports. But it's not just Big Pharma hurting our children, it's big food. Just go to any grocery store, especially in poorer areas, or watch any kids' entertainment. What you get is endless pushing of disgusting muck with barely any nutritional value. No wonder nearly 20% of children and adolescents in America are obese. We're creating a nation of fat kids destined to die early of heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. Kids' diets are a disaster. High fructose corn syrup, sugars and sweeteners in almost everything, even in bread. When I bake bread, there are 4 ingredients: flour, yeast, water, salt. You look at a package of white bread from Big Food, more than 30 ingredients, including the almost ubiquitous high fructose corn syrup. Why is it almost ubiquitous? Because it's massively subsidized by the federal government. Why is it subsidized so heavily? Because the corn and sugar producers in Big Food and Big Ag bribe the politicians to reauthorize every 5 years probably the most monstrous and corrupt piece of legislation in the entire Congress, the Farm Bill. So, Washington politicians take your taxes to pay off their donors so they can keep making our kids fat. By the way, I'm a huge supporter of farms and farming, but if we're going to subsidize agriculture, can we at least subsidize healthy stuff like fruit and produce? But in a way, even more depressing than the assault on our kids' physical health has been the vicious and sustained attack on their mental health. We all know the reason. Since the year 2011, when smartphones and social media colonized America, rates of major depressive episodes among young people have exploded, doubling in just 8 years, the worst of it among teen girls. We now see kids being given unsupervised access to the internet at a ridiculously young age, parents feeling powerless to stop it, even if they hate it. Children regularly absorbing all types of inappropriate content, violent, sexual, incredibly damaging to the young mind. Just log on to TikTok. Millions of American kids now addicted to total crap and worse. Instead of studying, now working as kidfluencers, for goodness sake. You think the country that invented TikTok allows it there? Of course not. They're not so stupid. Comparing our TikTok to the Chinese version is like comparing opium to spinach, according to one social media analyst. Letting our kids be poisoned by smartphones and social media is one of the greatest crimes in human history. One day we'll look back in shame and horror at it all. On top of that, You have reckless adults fueling children's fear and anxiety with utterly irresponsible extremism.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
Existential dread and fear-mongering that has so totally permeated youth culture that anxiety and depression are becoming the norm. Of course we want to teach our kids to respect and protect the environment, but how is telling them the world will end in 12 years? Actually, that was AOC 4 years ago, so now it's 8 years apparently. How's that going to create a generation of strong, positive leaders who can actually take on environmental challenges and solve them with innovation and creativity? And honestly, how does all the anti-Americanism help with our kids' mental health? They're now being taught to despise their own country. We all know America can improve, but is there a better country anywhere in the world? Take it from me as an immigrant and a new citizen. No, there is not. Just this week, I met a young man in Fresno, California, who told me the most wonderful story. His family came here from the Pacific island of Tonga. As a child, his mother would tell him, right now, we may be poor Americans, but remember, we are the richest Tongans because we're in America. One of the greatest gifts for any child is to be born and raised in America. Yet adults are snatching that away with their hateful and misguided anti-American indoctrination. Now, everything I've just said, everything, is made worse by perhaps the most destructive element of America's war on children, and that is the breakdown of the American family. As I always say, family is the most important thing in my life, and it should be the most important thing in our nation's life. Strong families make a strong country. Yet today, nearly a quarter of American children live with one parent and no other adult. More than 3 times the rate in the rest of the world. Our marriage rate is now at its lowest ever recorded. That's an economic disaster because a stable family makes a huge difference to life chances and opportunity. If you're born in the bottom 20% of the income scale, your chances of reaching the top 20% are 4 times higher if your parents stay married. This normalization of broken families is a social disaster too, because substance abuse, mental illness and crime, they're all more common in disrupted families. That's not moralizing, it's the data. Weren't we all told to follow that? And neither is this some call for a return to the 1950s. As you know, I've long been a strong supporter of marriage equality. In fact, I believe in it so much, I even think straight people should get married if they want to raise a family. Family breakdown is taking an especially serious toll on America's boys and young men. Men make up about 80% of suicides and drug overdoses. 2/3 of the kids at the bottom of their classes are now boys. For every 3 women on college campuses, there's now only 2 men. 1 in 3 men, 1 in 3 with only a high school diploma is out of the labor force. That is 10 million people. Of course, that doesn't mean we should reverse the gains women have made. That progress is a great thing. But we've got to raise our expectations of and opportunities for America's boys and young men. We can start by boosting technical education and skills training instead of pushing everyone into college. Here's the bottom line. We need to put kids first. We need to recapture childhood innocence. We need to fight back against the forces that are trying to indoctrinate children with extreme ideologies at a young age. We have to promote healthy, positive things like sports and the great outdoors. We've got to end this war on children. That's the next revolution we need.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.